So we're going to make a scatter plot graph here from Chapter 4, problem number 4. You were assigned problem number 3, which is very similar, only using a different data set. And if you haven't found the data sets yet, they're on the Wiley Book Company website. You just have to look up this book. If you just type into Google the title and author of the book, you can get there pretty easily. So the book says to create a scatter chart examining the relationship between the number of cases and length of stay, and then describe the relationship between these two variables. So we are going to look at cases and length of stay. What I find is the easiest way to do this is to highlight the data that we want in the graph. So I'm going to drag my cursor down all the way to the bottom and highlight this data. Okay. Quite a few cases, and then I'm going to move up to the top so that my graph ends up in this area. And then I go to Insert up here, and I find the kind of graph I want. We're going to use a lot of column graphs later in the course, but today we're doing a scatter graph. And I'm just going to do a simple scatter graph. Right, click on it right there, and there it is. Beautiful. And you can change the colors if you want. Green, purple. Purple's one of my favorite colors. I think I'll leave it purple. And then sometimes you might have more than one series for time or something. So it would make more sense to have this series label, but we just have the one, so I'm just going to delete that. But I do want to look at some more design features for this. Before I go to design features though, in case you don't realize, you can always also select the data using the select data function, or change the data if you made a mistake. And this looks at the data here, and you can edit it and so forth, or add another line, another series of data, if that makes sense. So we're going to go to the layout to add a few things to make this easy for our reader to understand what they're looking at. And the first thing I like to add is a chart title. And I'm going to put that above the chart. And let's see, so what is this? This is number of cases and length of stay for DRG 143. So now we know what we're looking at, and it's sort of obvious if you know anything about length of stay that this is probably length of stay up on the left here, on the y-axis, but go back to my, there we go. Click on the graph, and then I can get the design features. Go back to layout. So that's good to know. If you did something like me and got out of the graph, you just click on the graph again to go back to all these wonderful features. So we have the chart title, and so as I was saying, we also want to look at the axis and label those. And so we have a horizontal axis title. Below the axis is where I like to put it down here. And what shall we put? That would be number of cases. Yep, there we go. Clicked right in there. And then we want to put one on the vertical axis. And where should we put it? Display it horizontally and redo the chart, or vertically is kind of nice. And we could change the direction of the font as well. Let's stay. There we go over here. And we can do other fancy things with this chart, but this is good enough for government work, as they say. But the other thing I want to put in here, because I'm looking at the relationship, is what is really nice is to put in a trend line. And so I just want to have a linear trend line. We'll see what that looks like. We can always change it. Yep, that's what I want. I want it going through the data so that I can see the trend of this relationship. And it's going slightly down. So we can conclude from this scatter plot that as the number of cases increases, the length of stay actually decreases slightly. Not a lot, but it does decrease. And so that would be the piece that I would put down here under the chart, my conclusions about the relationship between these two variables. And that's how you make a simple scatter graph.